Okay, I want to welcome everyone. Thank you all also for joining the special tefillas today. We have tefillas every day, but we were even greater numbers Rosh Chodesh. So thank you so much right before the receiving of the Torah. So I always get very, very excited before I read people's bios, because when you read someone's bio, you see that everybody's a world. And what they've done with their world is so incredible, and especially the women of Am Yisrael. It's just remarkable to me. So I feel very, very privileged to introduce Sara Yocheved Rigler. Sara Rigler's path took her from India and Vedanta to Israel and Judaism. Her spiritual search first led her to India in 1968. There she studied with a guru who was both a mystic and an acclaimed Sanskrit scholar. Maybe she has to explain what that is. A year later, she returned to the US and finished her degree in psychology from Brandeis University, graduating, Phi Beta Kappa? How do you say that? Magna cum laude. Doesn't matter, it's all impressive. She spent the next 15 years living in America's oldest ashram, where she both practiced and taught Vedanta philosophy and meditation. In 1985, she made a dramatic change of spiritual path. She moved to Jerusalem, began studying Torah, and became a highly committed, observant Jew. Wow. In 1987, she married Leib Yaacov Rigler, a musician, composer, and arranger. At the age of 40, she gave birth to her first child. Oh, wow. And at the age of 46, to her second child. Wow, 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 amazing. She's lived inside the walled old city of Jerusalem for 36 years, but I know now you live in Kataman, right? Sara is a highly acclaimed international lecturer on the subject of Jewish spirituality and practical tools for spiritual growth. She has spoken in Israel, England, Canada, South Africa, France, Switzerland, Panama, Chile, Mexico, and over 35 American cities. She now lectures on Zoom throughout the world. She has published 7 books. Isn't it amazing to read these things? Holy Woman, translated into French, Hebrew, and Yiddish. Lights from Jerusalem, Battle Plans, How to Fight the Yetzer Hara. Translated into French, God Wink, Tales and Lessons from My Spiritual Adventures. Heaven Prince, Amuna with Love, and Chicken Soup. The story of Henry Machlis, the Brooklyn-born girl who became a Jerusalem legend. What a schus you had to do that. And you spoke on this book, and I've been here before, When Souls of the Holocaust Return. Her YouTube channel, From Within the Walls of Jerusalem, Gems of Jewish Wisdom and Practical Life Tools, presents personal and profound teachings. Sara is one of the most popular authors on www.h.com, and I have shared it in the WhatsApp group, so no worries. The world's largest Judaism website. Her writing has appeared in Chicken Soup for the Jewish Soul, Small Miracles of Love and Friendship. I used to love that series. Ami Magazine, Jewish Action, the Jerusalem Post, Bina Magazine, Mishpacha, and other anthologies and publications. And with that, I feel very, very privileged and honored to introduce Sara Yocheved Rigler. Thank you so much for doing this for us. And thank you for all the women who have joined. With tremendous akara satov to you.
First of all, I want to thank Naomi for inviting me and my friend Renee Margulies for arranging this invitation. And I want to say that it's a really beautiful thing. I came on at 4 o'clock Israel time and was with you for the whole, all the davening. It's absolutely beautiful. What you do is beyond beautiful. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to you today, because tomorrow night, Thursday night and Friday, is the 20th yahrzeit of Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Kramer, about whom I wrote the book Holy Woman. I don't know how many of you I don't know how many of you read this book. It came out in 2006, and innumerable women have told me that it changed their lives, because this book, rather than being a biography of a tzaddikus, is a kind of anti-tzaddik biography. Usually a tzaddik biography tells you, how great they were, and you can't get there from here. But By the way, I have the air conditioning on. Is the noise bothering? Is it disturbing?
No, we don't hear it.
No.
It's perfect.
Okay. So throughout this book, I have what I call fork in the road signs, where I stop the story and change the font and discuss the choices she faced. Because although we often get the idea that tzaddikim are born, no, they're not. Tzaddikim are made, and they're made by their own choices. And she was born, she was a child miracle worker. Because I'm not saying that, we're all born on the same level. We're not. But being a miracle worker does not make you a tzaddik. What makes you a tzaddik is that you make good choices. And although we all have, as Rav Dessler explains, a different point of choice, Rav Dessler calls Nekuda B'hira, a different point of choice, so that my level of choice, and let's say a give or taker scenario, is nowhere near what her point of choice was, but my point of choice is just as valid. And if I pass my test, and if you pass your tests on whatever level your point of choice is, then you go up what Rav Leib Kellerman, who was my Musar Rebbe for 16 years, I was in a Musarvad with him, calls the tzaddik chart. The tzaddik chart is like, it doesn't matter where you start, you have to go up. That makes you tzaddik. And of course, nobody goes up like this. We go up and down, up and down, up and down, but basically upward movement. So for those of you who have not read the book and are not familiar with Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Kramer, I'll just give you a little bit of background. She was born in 1924 in the Carpathian Mountains to a Hasidic family, and she was 20 years old when her whole family was taken to Auschwitz. Her parents and older sister and nieces and nephews were murdered that first night at Auschwitz. She and her sister Razel were kept alive to be experimented on by Dr. Mengele. And then subsequently, when the experiments were done, they were released to work and Razel was murdered. And when the Russians liberated Auschwitz in January of 1945, Chaya Sara was 20 years old and did not have a single living relative. She made her way to Palestine. The Satmar Rebbe made her a shidduch with Leib Yaacov Moshe Kramer, who people in the know, people like Rav Kreisworth of Antwerp, said that about Rav Yaakov Moshe that he was a lamed vav tzaddik, one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim whose merit sustains the whole world. The person who told me about Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Kramer, she told me she thinks she also was one of the lamed vav tzaddikim, and I think that is true, or was true. She died in 2005. So they lived in this really ramshackle shack, in a ramshackle moshav in north central Israel in the Jezreel Valley. I mean, they lived in complete poverty. I mean, they didn't have a telephone for most of the years. Running hot water they didn't have for many, many, many years. They didn't have paint on the walls or real flooring on the floor. I don't want to get into it. It's a whole, obviously, it took me a whole book to discuss all these inyanim about, like why did they live so simply? Her Shabbos candlesticks, and she was the only one in this, it was a poor moshav, but she was the only woman who lit Shabbos candlesticks that were candles put in tin cans that had sand in them, and at a point years later, she was offered, people would come and they'd offer her silver candlesticks. No, she wouldn't take them. So there's a whole discussion in the book about, why they chose to live on such an anti-materialistic level. But that's not what I want to talk to you about today. They never had any children, and she spent some 20 years of her life, really the prime of her life, taking care of multiply handicapped children who were kind of dumped on her doorstep. In those days, there was no facility for religious children who were severely disabled, to take care of them. And it was, of course, in the Haredi world, it was a shanda to have such a child. It would ruin the other children's shidduch. So people just literally brought their child to her, and she, without leaving a phone number for her address, and because not that many people had phones in those days, but and she took care of them. She took care of them 24 hours a day until they died. Most of them died. A few of them maybe left, but I think the rest of them all just died a natural death, sometimes after many, many years. They were incontinent in the days before disposable diapers. She never had a day off. She never had a vacation. She was never paid for it. She never got any money for this. And so her level of giving was like, beyond the beyond. She, after the I want to say about the, not having disposable diapers, she used to get up at 2 or 3 o'clock every morning and go around. She would have maybe 4 or 5 or 6 children at once, and she would go around in this shack she lived in, and she would go around. If they were wet or dirty, she would change them. Now remember, she didn't have running hot water, so she had to first heat up the water on the stove. I mean, that, like, talk about hard. So and in 1990, her husband's health became so bad that they had to move to Jerusalem. They moved to Mea Shearim, and he died that year. And she spent the last 15 years of her life as a widow. By the last maybe 10 years of his life, the word got out. He's a Lama Papsad, you got to go to him for brachas, and people would come to them for brachas, lots and lots of people. When she was a widow in Jerusalem, people also came to her for brachas, like, all the time. Now, what I want to talk to you about today, because again, there's no point in talking about how great she was, unless there's a lesson in it for each of us of how great we can become by making our own choices. So what I want to talk to you about today is her simcha. As it's clear from just listening to all the prayers for the hostages, for the soldiers, for the murder last week in Washington, D.C., I'm sure still has all of us in shock and reeling. And so it's a very hard time in history to be besimcha. There's so much not to be besimcha about. The hostages are wasting away. Almost the entire Israeli army is now in Gaza. We had, day before yesterday, my son's good friend, Nachi, who is a paratrooper in the reserves. I think it was his 4th time in Gaza. And, they get called up, and then they're in for like 2 or 3 months, and then they'll go out, and then they get called up again. And he got off for 3 days, and he came and visited us. By the way, in terms of praying for the soldiers, I told Nachi, I give a marriage webinar for married Jewish women through Jewish workshops. And I've given, we're praying for all the soldiers, but I think it's helpful to have specific names. So I gave my members of my Kesher Wife webinar, it's an ongoing webinar weekly. I gave them 2 names. Nachi is the only son of a divorced mother. So I really feel like you got to daven for him because he's an only son. The mother doesn't have a husband. So I told Nachi, his name is Menachem Shlomo ben Ariella Mindel, by the way. I told him that, a few hundred of my members of my webinar are davening for him by name. And he said to me, wow, I feel like I don't even need to wear my vest anymore, my protective vest. He wears a bulletproof vest, of course, when he goes into combat. He's a combat soldier. He heard that. He heard that women are davening for him. Like, why am I weighing myself down with this protective vest that weighs so much? So you should know how much the soldiers appreciate your prayers. Anyway, so I want to talk about simcha because we all need it. Now, Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Kramer, that was our trademark. She was always smiling, like not like, but like she lit up the room, and she always looked like she had a 500-watt halogen lamp behind her skin, and she was always happy. And I heard this before I even met her. Somebody at the Moshe before I met her said, and she's always smiling. She's always happy. These are people who lived with her from day to day. And when I met her and I was close to her for the last 20 years of her life, it's true, she was always smiling and always happy. And I didn't see anything she had to be happy about, except for the fact that she was married to a tzaddik. I mean, that's good, right? But because he was a tzaddik, I think he chose to live on this level of poverty that no other woman would have put up with, I think. So I want to explore with you, she had a method. She had a way that it wasn't like she was just naturally happy. No, she went through the Holocaust. She was sterilized in Auschwitz. She lost her whole family. She was not naturally happy. She worked on being happy. And especially after her husband died in 1990, the last 15 years of her life, it was a real struggle for her to be happy because he was the light of her life. And he left her with an apartment in Mea Shearim that somebody had given him, which was in her name, but there was no money. He never had any money to leave her. She had to really write letters to beg around for money. So I want to share with you the method because she talked about it. She talked about how the importance of simcha, and we can glean from what she said how she attained it and how all of us can work on simcha. So the first thing was that she was absolutely committed to being besimcha. It was important to her, just like you're committed to dressing sneakily. She was committed to being besimcha. She said that if a person is sad, it's like drowning in the sea. In other words, if you're drowning, you don't just go down with the current. No, you flail your arms and you call for help and you work hard to stay afloat. So if you start to be pulled down by atzvus, by sadness, and I'm not talking here about, clinical depression. Let's put that to the side. I'm talking about the sadness that comes upon all of us every day because things don't go our way, like the plumbing is leaking and the plumber can't come today. And there's all this, the water is leaking all over the kitchen floor and I don't have time. I have to get to work. Or somebody treats you not nicely or insults you, or you lose money, or one of your children is not doing well, or your husband is just doing something doesn't bring home from the store the thing that you absolutely need to finish the recipe for Shavuos when you told him so clearly exactly what you need and he forgot to pick it up. All things like whatever it is, things happen and we get sad. She turned reality around the other way. For us, whether we're happy or sad is based on what happens to us, not her. She decided to be happy. And then she said, one of her aphorisms that I love is that the best antidote for any problem is to be happy. In other words, you don't wait for the problem to be solved and then you're happy because it was solved. You're happy and that solves the problem. She said, if a person is happy, even though they have no reason to be happy, then Hashem will give them a reason to be happy. In other words, the happiness is not the result. The happiness is the cause. This in general was her whole approach. I have formulated this as a basic teaching that every human being has an inflow pipe and an outflow pipe, like two pipes connected to our shoulders. And the inflow pipe is everything that happens to us. from outside of us, including even getting sick, which happens, it's not a choice we make. But the outflow pipe is our own thoughts, words, and actions. So the thing to remember is we have zero control over the inflow pipe, what happens to us. But we have 100% control over the outflow pipe, our thoughts, words, and actions. So this was her whole approach to life. She can decide to be happy. She doesn't need a reason to be happy. She'll decide to be happy. So that was the first thing. That was her first weapon to fight sadness. Her second weapon was gratitude. She was very, very grateful. Now, I mean, I researched her life, and I found only one thing she had to be grateful for, which was her husband. She didn't have children. She didn't have any nice clothes. She wore 2 house dresses, one on top of the other. She didn't have any jewelry. She didn't have any, she didn't have a day off. She never had a vacation. What did she have to be happy about? I once brought a group of women to her, not to her, to her husband, when those few months that he was in Jerusalem before he got sick and died. And so these were women. I lived in the Jewish quarter, as Naomi said, for almost 40 years. That's an old bio. A year ago, I moved to Kadamon. It got too hard on my knees to manage the cobblestones of the old city and the steps in the old city. I live in a building with an elevator. It's great. Anyway, but I took a group of my American women friends, 5 women, to go get blessings from the tzaddik, Leib Yaacov Moshe Kramer. And while we were waiting, each one went in one at a time to get her blessing. We were sitting in the living room with Rebbe and Sara. We must have looked like a very glum group, because she said to us, don't worry, you'll all get the blessing you came to get. And one of my friends said, but how do we remain b'simcha while we're waiting for the blessing to come down? And she said, how do you remain b'simcha? She didn't get the question. She said, you have eyes and they see. You have ears and they hear. You have feet and they take you where you want to go. How can you not be b'simcha? In other words, she was grateful for that she had eyes and they saw, that she had ears and they heard. Her feet at that point, it didn't even take her where they wanted to go. She had very big problems with her legs. But that level of gratitude for just she said to me once, we should be saying Hallel for every breath. Can't be saying Hallel for every breath, at least we should be thanking Hashem for every breath. So another thing she was grateful for was her spiritual blessings. That she was born into a family that was, that kept Torah and mitzvot. That was her whole line. That she was so grateful that she was born a Jew. When she would say the morning brachot, she would, and one of the brachot is Shelo Asani Goy. So when she would say Shelo Asani Goy, she almost danced with joy. Now, think about that. To be so grateful to be born a Jew, when because you were born a Jew, you were taken to Auschwitz and your whole family was murdered. But she was grateful to be born a Jew. I mean, just this level of focusing and being grateful for everything. One of the things that I assign to my Kesher Wife Club is to every morning start your day before you daven, to thank Hashem for 5 things that you never thanked him for before, something new, not the same old things every day. Because gratitude conduces to simcha. The third thing that that caused simcha in her life, and I'm reading this from the book Holy Woman. Holy Woman. Her third thing was giving. Now, this is a deep theological point, that giving is mamash hand in hand. Giving produces simcha. Again, one of my teachings for my Kesher Wife Club is that something called the spiritual GPS. Rav Shlomo Wolba taught great Musar master, taught that there are two worlds, means two spiritual dimensions. There's the Olam HaYedidut, the world of connection, and the Olam HaZarut, the world of estrangement. And the world of connection is characterized by happiness and faith and optimism and love and all the good things. And the world of disconnection is characterized by anger and hatred and resentment and depression and sadness and all the bad things. So you get to the world of connection by any act of giving. It's a whole teaching. I can't give it on one leg. You're all invited to join the Kesher Wife Club if you want. It's on my website. But she was just the ultimate giver. Not only for 20 years when she was the prime of her life did she give to these multiply handicapped children, but even into their last 15 years when her health was not good and her legs really didn't, like, it's a really problem. She rarely went out. So how could she give? She didn't have the energy. She couldn't go out. She couldn't do anything. She gave encouragement to everybody who came, everybody who called. One woman called, she was depressed. This woman from New York called. Rebbe Cinda stayed with her on the phone for 9 hours until she lifted her from her depression. And she was always encouraging people. Like she used to say, give a good word. It doesn't cost anything. Giving, like, so that's so simple. And the fourth, her fourth method for staying besimcha was her absolute emunah and betachon in the goodness of Hashem. She believed that everything Hashem does is good, and therefore, how could she not be besimcha? And again, she said this at times she didn't have health, she didn't have money, she didn't have children. What did she have? Nothing. But everything Hashem does is good. So this is a four-step method for being besimcha, even in these difficult times. And I practiced it myself this morning. Again, we don't have to do it on her level. We do it on our own level. So I'll give you a very prosaic example because I try to practice what I preach. I have a Gerber plant. I live in an apartment on the 8th floor, and we have a mirpesset, a balcony, and I have potted plants. And I have a Gerber plant. Gerber has beautiful flowers about this big, bright colored, orangish color that I love. And this Gerber plant has been blooming all winter long. Even up here, on the 8th floor, we get a lot of wind. And it bloomed. There were sometimes as many as 7 flowers blooming. So I love this plant. And I came out this morning because I daven out there in the morning. And I came out and I looked at it. And I saw these white bugs, these mealy bugs, like mamash. There was one flower that was just like, and these mealy bugs all along its stems, sucking out its life. And I looked more closely, and there was a lot of it. Was really infested with mealy bugs. And I was like horrified. Like, am I going to be able to save it? And I got so sad. I got very sad because I love this plant. And then I thought wait a second. All this week, because it's her yard site tomorrow night, Friday, all this week I've been talking about Rebbe Sara Kramer, and I talked to my webinar last night about her, and I talked about the steps of simcha, and I thought, wait a second, I don't have to be sad because I might lose my Gerber plant. What will I do? And I use these steps. First of all, I'm committed to be besimcha. I'm committed to be besimcha because Rebbe Sara says you have. Look, the terrible curses in Parshas Kitavo. It says all these terrible things are going to happen to you because you didn't serve the Lord your God with simcha. So I'm sure everybody that's listening on this Zoom serves Hashem. But do you serve him besimcha? So that's very important to Hashem that we serve Hashem besimcha. So I said, okay, I'm committed. I'm going to be besimcha no matter how much, my Gerber plant is in danger. And then the next step is gratitude. Well, I'm grateful. It has been blooming for me for a year. Sometimes as many as 7 flowers. It bloomed all winter. I'm grateful to get into the gratitude mode. And then to giving. So I determined, well, I will give it. Like I'll look up to see what it needs that I can give it to try to help save it. And then have faith that everything that Hashem does is good. If I lose this beautiful Gerber plant, it's good. Why? Because it may be a kapora. Better that my plant should get sick than one of my children or my husband. So those are the 4 steps. And I have a request to make of everybody who's listening to this Zoom, which is that tomorrow night is Rebbetzin Chaya Sara's 20th yard site. Because she had no children, she worried, who will light a candle for me? So I'm requesting that everybody who's listening, tomorrow night, light a yahrzeit candle for Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Bas Mendel Yosef. Write it down, because if they put it in the chat, when the Zoom's over, you don't get to see the chat, right? Chaya Sara Bas Mendel Yosef. Thank you, GMK. But write it down, because you won't get to see the chat. Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Bas Mendel Yosef. Thursday night, light a candle for her. Do we have that's like all the time that we have, I think. Are there any questions? Somebody's asking, what, if anything, did she say about the Holocaust? Hi, Toby. I haven't seen you for years. It's so nice to see you, Toby.
Hi, Sarah. Good to see you too.
So, yes, there's a whole chapter in the book about her experiences in the Holocaust, and being a good biographer, but a bad person in those days, I really pushed her to talk about it. She didn't want to talk about it. So yes, there's a whole chapter about the Holocaust in the book.
Wow, that was amazing. Is there anyone else that has any questions?
Let me see if there's any questions.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. I have your book, and it's beautiful, and I have read it. It's just unreal. But you're saying that you don't think that her way of life was what gave her the ability to do brachos?
Well, it's not a good connection. You're saying, I don't think that her way of life is what?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm driving and it's raining. Okay. I wanted to clarify for myself what you were saying about her level of sisters and her ability to give people brachos.
Yeah, she gave brachas and they came true. She healed people. I have an article on aish.com. If you go to aish.com today, or to even tomorrow,
when you were speaking,
you'll see on aish.com, I have an article about, it's called, I Never Knew a Jewish Saint Until One Hugged Me. So it tells about her. I was looking for a miracle worker. I didn't know Judaism I was raised conservative. I wasn't raised in the Orthodox world. I didn't know Judaism had saints. I knew other religions had saints. So I was looking for a miracle worker. And so the article talks mostly, the longest part of the article is about all the miracles she did. But in the end, I say that wasn't what made her a tzaddik. That wasn't what made her a tzaddik. Is that she loved everyone, and she saw the tzaddik in everyone else. And she called me, she met me when I was barely 3 months Shomer Shabbos. I had just spent 15 years in the ashram, and she called me a tzaddikah. She always called me a tzaddikah. And I was like, what? I knew she wasn't crazy. I knew she wasn't blind. She called me, after she died, I found out she called all these other like Russian Bali Tshuva who came to her, you're a tzaddikah, you're a tzaddikah. That was her tzidkus, that she could see this potential for tzidkus in everyone else.
You're saying, like, you said something also that was so stunning, like it doesn't cost anything to say a good word. And I really hear that. I really want to take that into my own, like, life practice of being a kid, that just to find opportunities to raise other people up and to raise myself up and being kind to myself also,
Yes. Okay, so there are some other questions. People are asking, it starts tomorrow night. Yes, Gimel Sivan. This Thursday night and Friday, Gimel Sivan. And someone's asking, where is her kever? So if you're in Israel, I see some people are in Israel. If you want to go to the kever, we're actually at 9:15 on Friday morning. We're meeting at the kever with the minyan to say Kaddish, but you can go anytime on her yard site. It's Friday. It's at Har Menuchos. You go to the corner of the parking lot at Har Menuchos. There's a sign that says Derek Talpiot. You go down there, and when you get to a place where the road you can go either straight or to the right. You don't go to the right. You stop the car at that point, and she's buried right there in that I don't know what's called. She's the 8th kever against the fence. If you come at 9:15, you'll see a group of people there. Someone's saying, can you please expound on step 3, doing good? When you do good, doing good creates simcha. It's complicated to explain how it works. When it says at the end of Parshas Bereshis that Hashem, when he looked at the world that was like before the flood that was in such bad shape, and he says, the Torah says, Hashem had heartfelt sorrow. I said, what? What does that mean? Hashem had heartfelt sorrow? So Rav Friedlander explains that sorrow means closing the faucet, and simcha, in terms of Hashem, means opening the faucet of giving. So this is all like deep stuff, which I don't understand, but I know it works. I know that if you are in the world of disconnection and you are feeling sad, or you are feeling angry, or you are feeling resentful, and you decide, no, I don't want to be in this world, I want to be in the world of connection, any act of giving will take you there. I've been doing it for years, and it works. Any act of giving. You can give a physical thing, you can give a hug, you can give a compliment, you can forgive, you can give the benefit of the doubt. Any act of giving takes you to the world of happiness. It works. Try it.
Wow, that was amazing. We have 3 more questions. Do you have time for that?
Yes.
Esty, you want to?
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful what you said. Do you mind encapsulating just quickly again? I know it's not quick, but just the full points that you said. Number 1, be mindfully happy.
No,
Number 2,
number one is commit. Number 1 is commit to being happy.
Commit.
Don't wait for it to happen naturally. Don't think, well, I'll be happy when something makes me happy. We use that term. Something made me happy. Something made me angry. No, these are choices we make in our life. Commit to, I will be happy no matter what is happening. Number 1 is commit, not mindfulness. Commitment.
Got it.
Number 2 is gratitude. Number 3 is giving. And number 4 is having faith that everything Hashem does is letova, is for the good. Whether it feels good or not, really to have that emunah, that it's for the good.
Thank you.
And there was one more question. Let's see.
Roma, you want to ask?
Yeah, I just want to know how to get the book.
So if you're in America, any bookstore would have it, but you can also order it from ArtScroll. If you're going to order it from ArtScroll, go onto my website, sararigler.com, and order it through the website, and then I get 50 cents or something. So you can get it on my website, sararigler.com. If you're in Israel, I don't know. I don't think you can order from the website, but in America, definitely you can.
Thank you.
And I want to tell you something. I told ArtScroll a month ago. I said, Representative Hayasar's 20th yard site is coming up, and I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be all these Zooms and podcasts, and and they only had 318 books left, and I said, you've got to reprint.
Thank you.
Can you guarantee that they're going to sell 380? They were going to sell 318 copies of Holy Woman, with all you're promoting about and talking about her. So I hope they run out of print.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think her blessing came true. She brought you up to a whole new level by her blessing. It wasn't
her blessing. It was not her blessing.
No,
it was, she saw it in me. She said, you're a tzaddik. You can do this to anyone. You can do it to your husband, to your children, to your sister, to your brother, to your friend. If you see the tzidkas in somebody else,
you bring it out.
Somehow, people ask me, I mean, my claim to fame, I'll tell you very, very honestly and candidly, my claim to fame is that I work on myself every day. It's not that I've attained such a high level. There are people who are much nicer than I am, much more bigger givers than I am, much more considerate than I am. I'm not so great in many areas, but I work on myself every day. And somebody asked me, well, where do you get I'm 77 years old. Where do I get the impetus and the motivation to work on myself every day? And the answer is, I only realized this week when I was talking about her. Rebbetzin Chaya Sara Kramer, at the very beginning, we're talking 40 years ago, she said I was a tzadikah. And I knew she wasn't crazy, and I knew she wasn't blind, and I knew she wasn't a liar. So if she said I have the potential to be a tzadikah, then how can I not work on myself? Because she saw that I had the potential. And then
beautiful. Thank you.
Everybody. It's not special to me. Every single one of you can become a tzadikah. If she had met you, she would have said to you, you're a tzadikah.
That's beautiful.
She said,
beautiful. Thank you.
Russian Balei Tshuva.
Beautiful.
We all have tzidkus within us. It's a question of just making choices. When Hashem gives us tests to make choices, and one of the biggest choices we can make is to be besimcha, because Hashem likes when we're besimcha.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you.
We have one more question from Ita. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I just want to express my tremendous gratitude that you joined with us today, and that we get to hear from you. And I could tell you that tzadikah is also normal. We could be normal. We don't have to think of it as like some huge madrega. And to see ourselves as tzidkaniot or tzadikot, whatever you call it, and that we could be normal. And yes, today I listened to the Bitachon hotline, and it was of Shimshon Pincus saying in the Shar Tefillah that Hashem tzilcha. When we smile, Hashem gives us what to smile about. Hashem is our shadow. When we have more and more to smile about, be happy about. And Rabbi Golombek talks about being shikar with simcha, that's what Hashem wants from us. And if we're going to be bitzar, I mean, and let that flow through us, and then stay with tsar, instead of letting it just go and filling up with simcha, then we get that kind of shadow also. Hashem brings us more of what we express. We have that co-creative ability to bring more simcha into life, or the opposite. That's it. It's Hashem gives us that divine, power. And so it's how we use it. And like you said, make choices. And I'm just very grateful that we had this day today, this time today before Shavuos. And
I want to say one thing.
Hope to see you 9:15.
I want to say
Friday.
one thing about that. For the purpose of being authentic, there are times when we should be sad, when we must be sad.
Right, but not to stay there, not to stay stuck.
We're sad when you're praying for the hostages. You have to be sad. Your heart has to be broken. 600 days. These people are still in these tunnels and still being starved. It's not like you can never be sad.
No, he didn't say that. It should not to say stuck in it, because that's not right. It's a paradox. Everything we have to be.
And to give time being sad. There are appropriate times to be sad when you're davening.
No, we should not be denying it. I know people that deny it. It's not a healthy thing. No, you have to express it, but let it flow through. We have to keep flowing, and it's not an easy thing, but we just choose our hard. There is no such thing as easy until we do hard. So yeah,
we don't care about easy.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Thank you.
One more question?
Yeah, just a quick question. When I went on your website, it took me to the website for Art Scroll. Is that correct?
Yes. But you click on that. If you come through my website, then I get my 50 cents.
Really great.
Hi. I know you want to wrap up. I just wanted to say one thing. Hi, my name is Chavi Khan. I just want to give Hakaras Hatov to the incredible book that you wrote about the Holocaust. I guess we'll call it Gilgulim. It was actually a huge impetus for me for healing, because after October 7th, I actually started therapy because of my lifetime Holocaust PTSD. and I was told I needed to do a PLR, and I wouldn't do it. I was terrified, and I absolutely did not want to do it. And then because of your book, it triggered me and started that that to be able to.
PLR? Can I ask you what's PLR?
Past life regression. And Baruch Hashem, it was something I was completely terrified to do, and I absolutely refused to do it, even though the therapist had recommended to me literally on the first session that I needed it. And Baruch Hashem found somebody who was literally sent from Shemayim to do it with me, and unbelievable. But it was your book that triggered me so much. I actually had a panic attack when I was reading it and had to stop reading it, and was able to use that as my impetus to say, okay, this is what I have to do to heal. This is like Hashem's message to me that I must do this to heal. So I just wanted to thank you. You check ours too, because you don't even realize how far reaching your book is.
Well, this, it's a whole different subject. Maybe during the 3 weeks, Naomi Greenberg will invite me back to speak again about that subject, Holocaust.
Yeah, very different subject. I just wanted to give you Hakaras Tov because it really, I'm still on that journey, but it really was a tremendous push, and it's a longer story of Hashkafa Pratis about how Hashem made sure it fell into my lap so that I should get the message.
Like to hear it. You know something? Write to me.
Okay. Yeah, it's a long story, so I don't want to put everybody through this on the phone, but absolutely, I'll tell you the story.
My address is syrigler@gmail.com. I'd love to hear the story.
Okay, I will.
Hi, Sara. I just want to say hi. It's Rifki. I never come on, but I came on for you from work.
I can't see. Why can't I see you?
Okay, I think we have to.
Hi, Rifki. How you doing, Rifki?
Good. I'll be in touch with you. I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too. I was thinking about you the other day.
All right. Well, I'll contact you.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Rebbe Rigler. This was amazing, and really appreciate your time and what you gave over here. And should have a Chodesh Tov, everyone. Thank you for coming on and joining. And
a hug Sameach, because there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to be besimcha on Hag Shavuos.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Good Chodesh.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you, Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sara, Naomi.
Chodesh Tov. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Chodesh Tov.
Thank you.